Today we will learn the National Innovation System Module 2, in which we will discuss the fundamental relationship between organizations and institutions, and then we have to expect and discover the main functions of the National Innovation System in terms of enlisting the components and functions that will also allow us to determine the boundaries of the National Innovation System, to further classify the types of the innovation system which are in operating, and then we have to subclassify the regional innovation system as well, sectoral or technological systems of innovations. We will also look into that how this approach is performing across nations as well as in the global institutions, and then finally how it is going to be useful for public policy purposes. So first of all, we will learn about the main components of the National Innovation System, which we usually define two, that is organizations and institutions. Largely you will find that the institutions are not studied as a part of the approach in most of the new classical economic system, but you'll find that they usually play around the organizations. So this is the approach, the National Innovation System approach is going to cover both the approaches. So therefore you'll find that these two main components are very important, and their integration is also very important. So when we define organizations are a formal structures that are consciously created and have an explicit purpose. So you will be able to understand that this is a very formal structure, and then you will find that it is a consciously created. These are the two very important element of defining organizations. Now, organizations are players or actors such as firms. If you are dealing with agriculture, then it's firms, and then you have universities, maybe the general technical as well as the agricultural universities. Then we have the system of financing venture capital organizations, and then you have public agencies responsible for innovation policy, as well as most of the competition policies are also being pursued under a new regime of competitive commission of such as India and various parts of the world. You will be able to find such kind of organizations which are existing. So the organizations are fundamentally defined on the basis of the economic activities in which these kind of organizations are involved in, and you'll find that they have a purpose, and the purpose is simple, that most of the new classical theory talks about that firm is going to create the firm's purpose is to earn profits. But you'll find that the kind of organization which we have been looking at, these are the organization which is going to create either, you will find that new products, so that is in the manufacturing sectors, new crops which are going to give you new form of grains as well as the fruits and vegetables in the case of agriculture sector. Or you will find that in the case of services business sector of the economy, the unique kind of services which are going to be given. So they are going to produce certain goods and services that is really demanded in the, or you will find the supply creates its own demand. So that is the kind of thing which we will be able to understand in this particular kind of lecture. Because of such kind of activities which we have been looking into it are very, very important for all of us. However, you will find that these are the kind of things which we are going to talk about with these organizations. Now, there is a distinctive set of institutions that are supporting innovations or involved in the process of innovations, and traditionally you will find that state and market are two very important institutions which plays an important role in the organization of the system as a whole. But you'll find that the most of the innovation system approach is treating institutions quite loosely, in the sense that no defined and agreed kind of definition is expected to have, because in institutional economics you will find that they usually believe that institutions are rules of the game that govern and conditions the behavior of the organizations. So that means how economic actors of productions are being regulated is very important, and for their determining their behavior through the rules of the game is very, very important, and that is going to be considered as institutions. So these can be formal as well as informal ones. You will find that when we will talk about institutions are a set of common habits, norms, routines, established practices, rules or laws that regulate the relations and interaction between individuals, groups, and organizations. So that is a very comprehensive kind of definition which is available, which talks about several set of things which happens for both formal as well as informal, because you will find that the evolution of the society carries a lot of informal ways in which the human and economic activities are being organized as well as being reproduced, and interactions, social interactions usually takes place both among the organizations as well as among the individuals, but their behavior is being regulated. And that's why you will find that formation of family and survival of the family, formation of farms, and their survival over a long period of time is not only on one set of rules that is informal or one set of rules that is formal. It's a combination of both. You'll find sometimes the informal dominates over the formal, sometimes formal dominate over the informals, but you'll find that this is a good combination of that which allows the forward looking and new things, innovative things which can happen in the organizations as well as institutions invent and reinvent itself, compared to the kind of systematic arrangements through which you will find operations are being and regulatory mechanisms are being conducted. So therefore you will find that it is the rules or laws that is very, very important, how we regulate the relations as well as interactions between groups, individual groups and organizations. This is the definition which has been given by one of the very important economists who has been continuously striving to develop a theoretical framework of especially moving from the descriptive to the formal kind of system. So Adquist and Johnson in the year 1997 tried to define institutions, the manner in which we have been talking about. So therefore, institutions such as laws, rules and norms differ among the national systems of innovation, because you will find that across the kind of countries in north as well as south, but you'll find that since the era of globalization, you'll find that largely these laws, and norms are being unified as well as try to be homogenized, because of the international agencies and international organizations are pressing hard to less developed countries, especially the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to bring in the similar kind of rules and regulation in terms of innovation system as well, that is followed by the developed countries, and this will allow the multinationals operations relatively easier because they are going to face similar kind of rules and regulation which they have been facing in the developed countries of the world. And the trend is towards reducing these kind of regulatory mechanisms and allowing freely to operate the enterprises and their operations. So both organizations and institutions vary among the systems. For example, the North and South relatively, for example, IPRs and copyrights are relatively not strictly implemented as has been done in the developed countries of the world, but the developed countries, along with the global governing institutions, they have been continuously making a pressure on the North to relatively look into the issues, especially the developed country firms which are operating in the less developed countries or South. They are not able to find some kind of stumbling blocks because of the kind of changing norms. So this leads us to look into more closely to how actually the main innovation system functions. So therefore, overall, the function of national systems of innovation is fundamentally to pursue innovation processes, and innovation processes are relatively very complex, but the fundamental purpose of the national innovation system is that it should develop, diffuse and use innovations. That means the fundamental purpose is the development of new innovations, technologies, as well as the diffusion of these kind of technology. But I have given you some examples in the last lecture where we have looked into that developed countries, and where you will find that most of the innovations took place 2.5 century or 3 century ago, but you will find that those innovations could not manage to give us the similar kind of results which has been given in the developed countries of the world. So therefore, in the less developed country of the global South, you will find that even the first industrial revolution kind of level of productivity is not yet being matched by the global South. So that does mean the structure of the economy has not been changed like it has been changed. So that means innovation relatively diffusion is very difficult. Diffusion is not very easy. I have used 2 examples from India, that is Chandrayaan 3. You'll find that the idea, technologies, innovations took place more than half century or more ago. So therefore you'll find that still you'll find that we are struggling to reach the way the first and second time or third time in the early 60s the US and the USSR were able to land on moon. So therefore you'll find that even the Green Revolution, 2.5 states in India could not be even replicated after similar amount of time because the Green Revolution in India coincided with the man landed on moon. So that is the kind of thing which you will find that still you will find that 2.5 states are the basically the Green Revolution states, others are not able to emulate. So therefore diffusion of technology is very difficult, and therefore that is a very important processes of the innovation system, and how that is to be done is need to be talked about very seriously. And use of innovations, you will find that same innovations and their uses are going to be different, as well as efficiency levels are expected to be very, very different. So therefore factors that influence the development, diffusion and use of innovation are very important to be examined. Largely you will find that in the global North, you will find that the R&D and R&D related mechanisms and interactions seems to be happen to be very, very important. So R&D as a means of development of economically relevant knowledge that can be provided a basis for innovations or the financing of commercialization of such knowledge, that is transformation into innovations, is very, very important, because the establishment of the R&D in the formal sense in Germany spread over to United States of America, and then it has been spread over to many other developed countries, and you will be able to see a lot of antecedents of this R&D units in the Indian situation as well. But you'll find that in the innovation system in the early stages, largely the industries which are having industrial units, R&D units, which are very important, how innovations has been generated over there. So you'll find that apart from public sector innovations, private sector innovation turned out to be very, very important. So innovation processes are actually multi-causal. There is no one process and no one causes of the underlying process, innovation processes. It is a multi-causal. So many factors play a very important role, and most importantly, they are interdependent on each other. So therefore, segregating and talking them in an isolated manner is relatively very difficult, because organization, institutions and their interdependence and a right combination of the state as well as of the markets plays a very important role to, generate a right kind of innovation processes that leads to economic development, rise in productivity, rise in living levels of the people who are participating in economic activities. So therefore, identification of determinants of innovation process as well as interaction is a complex process. It is not simple. It's a relatively very complicated system. But you'll find that what is our job is that we have to identify and dissect from such kind of complexity these kind of issues, so that you'll find that what we have to do is not only develop it and understand the theoretical approach of national innovation system, but what we have to do is that we have to in practice estimate and improve those kind of processes. So therefore, relevance and importance to study the relations among various determinants of innovation processes are going to be important. So therefore, it is significant to understand that how relevant, how important are the relations of various determinants during the innovation processes. A large literature on innovation and determinants of national innovation system has been developed to both theoretically understand as well as the practically or empirically we have to estimate those. I would like to highlight here for the benefit of the students especially that you'll find that we have the largely divided world, where you'll find the innovation largely takes place in the formal innovation largely takes place in the developed countries of the world, but global south is adapting or emulating those kind of technologies to the local circumstances, and therefore you will find that they are also participating in the innovation processes. If they are not developing new innovations in product and processes, relatively they are going to develop some other kind of innovations which are now being quite substantially enlisted in the literature. So large amount of literature is emerging, especially in the 21st century, to talk about that apart from science, technology, innovation approach, which we have been talking about at a substantial rate, and most of the economists and social scientists usually follow science, technology, innovation mode because this is relatively well defined, as well as you will find that the indicators are available, data sources are available, but we will discuss in a greater length what are the fundamental determinants of even science technology and innovation mode. But you'll find that more importantly for Global South, the new approach which is coming, that is doing, using, interacting, that is called DUI mode, which is very important for us to understand, and where you'll find that a lot of contribution is going to take place from the developing countries, but you'll find that still developed countries are also having some kind of innovations in this particular way also. If we will go systematically to understand how things are happening, how innovation processes are actually taking place in the developed as well as developing countries, you will find you will be more convinced with doing, using, interacting approach is not only present in the Global South, but equally important in the developed countries of the world. So therefore, most importantly in the STI approach, the provision of research and development is very, very important, where you'll find that research and development is creating new knowledge primarily in the engineering, medicine, and natural sciences. Therefore, you'll find that R&D is center of all the kind of innovation processes. But second very important aspect is that if we have to get good results of the spread of the innovations and the use of innovation, then you will find that we have to look into competency building of the human beings. That humans are very important here. The human labor is very important, and that is working in the R&D labs as well as you will find that in the organizations. So therefore, the provision of education and training is very important. Usually you'll find that it is expected that both organizations are also keeping some provision and training, but you'll find largely it is dependent upon the state-led provision of education and training system that has been developed by the education system as a whole, that provides you both technical as well as general education and basic fundamental science education. So therefore you'll find that all the three kind of educations, which is fundamental as well as applied, both the kind of provisions is being made in terms of building capacity, whatever the capacity is required for the economic activities to take place. You'll find that that comes from these kind of institutions. So that is fundamental ways that the institution forms human capital, but you'll find that training, apprenticeship and learning processes are also very important, which we will discuss in the DUI approach. But largely we find that STI approach talks about competency building through institutional processes, and this is a production and reproduction of skills. Reskilling, de-skilling, reskilling is very important, and this is the individual learning. So that is the labor force to be used in innovation system, and R&D activities mainly comes from the educational system. That is very important. So what is important here is that the R&D system is largely focused on the formation of the new products. So that is very important, that the innovations is restricted to the new products. Even new processes are important, but you'll find that it's a new products which are being emphasized in the traditional discussions of the innovation and innovation system as well. So therefore you'll find that it is very important that articulation of quality requirements that emanates from the demand side with regard to new products. This is very important determinant or the process of the innovation system. Another very important determinant of the innovation system is creating and changing organizations. This is a Schumpeterian kind of system, created destruction, and you'll find the reincarnation of the entrepreneurs. You'll find that is very important, and we can understand that some of the products are disappearing, some of the new products are emerging. When new products are emerging, they are displacing the older kind of projects. So therefore we have to look into the creation of new firms that is happening. Sometimes state encourages, sometimes private sector activities having an offshoot which is called entrepreneurial activities, which does mean diversity of the existing firms is very important to new areas with the similar kind of areas, and you'll find new products which are going to be created. So that does mean the creating of new organizations through policy agencies as well is very, very important. Another very important aspect is basically the networking through markets and other mechanisms, because the processes of innovations through interactive learning, because that reduces relatively the cost of the organizations to innovate and not to invent the wheel again and again, so they can go forward and forward in terms of using knowledge while interacting with each other, what has been already done, so they can improve upon other and to develop the new products. So integrating new knowledge elements developed in different spheres of NIS is very, very important through networking, but you'll find the knowledge to the firms comes from outside. Usually you will find that it is believed that the National Innovation System talks about endogenous innovation, but external interactions are also very, very important. So you will have the combination of endogenous as well as exogenous innovations. Another important determinant of the innovation processes in the innovation system approach is creating and changing institutions. So that does mean you'll find that when organizations are becoming innovative, you'll find that some of the rules and regulations are expected to be redundant, some are not in place. So that means the institutions have to be also innovative in nature. They have to devise the laws, for example, intellectual property laws, tax laws, environmental laws, safety regulations, R&D investment routines. So these are all, that influences innovative organizations and innovation processes by providing incentives or obstacle to innovation. So this is very important, that institutions are generating incentives that firms should become more innovative, or the organization should become more innovative, and you'll find that they also create obstacles so that the undesirable innovations should not also takes place. You'll find that one of the very important example is cloning. So cloning was once upon a time very important new innovative activities and was highlighted all along, but nowadays nobody talks about cloning. That does mean the institutional incentive has been created, regulatory mechanisms are in operation. That does mean in that direction the innovations should not take place, because that is going to challenge the very purpose and existence of the social structure generated by the human beings, like a reproductive kind of system. So natural reproductive system is expected to be replaced. Similarly, the artificial intelligence generating organizations are also talking about to create incentives and disincentives so that artificial intelligence should not replace completely the human mind. So therefore you'll find that that is a fundamental kind of ways in which institutions are actually working. So another very important and fade kind of thing which is happening in India is incubating activities. So I think in an innovation system as well as innovation processes, the most important determinant of the innovation is incubating activities. So providing access to facilities, administrative support for new innovative efforts, and the human beings who are interested to generate new organization and innovations, that is expected to be given a kind of babysitting and facilitation. You'll find that which is going to make them start from crawling to walking kind of activities. So that is the kind of thing, and this is very important. Incubating activities is spreading in India like anything. That is very important. Of course, no economic activity, either institutions or the organization, can run without financing. Similarly, the innovation processes also require financing. So innovation activities are very important. To commercialize those kind of activities, financing is very, very important. So you'll find that we would like to generate activities that can facilitate commercialization of knowledge and its adoption, and that requires a lot of financing. You will find that environment technology and innovations cannot be generated and redeployed in the global south, because financing is fundamental, and the UN system is having a targets to create a kind of financing kind of facility for spreading those innovations, environmental innovations, in the global south. So provision of consultancy services of relevance for innovation processes. So you have to create some kind of consultancy services regarding technology transfer, commercial information, and legal advice. That is very, very important, because these are partly the processes of innovation to be taking root in terms of diffusion from one area to another, one country to another, one region to another, and one economic activity to another. And then you'll find even within the same economic activities, but the commercial information, sometimes you have technologies, but those are not able to be succeeding in the market. So therefore commercial information is important, and legal advice, because a lot of regulatory mechanism generated by the institutional framework that requires the consultants, and therefore consultancy services are very important. So we have almost more than 10 fundamental determinants which we have identified from the various studies conducted over the period of time, and various definitions defining innovation system. That is perhaps going to give us some idea that these are the determinants of innovation processes. But you'll find that this list which we have presented here is not going to be a final one, and therefore you'll find that it is a subject to revision as our knowledge about determinants of innovation process increases. We are adding more and more indicators or the determinants of the innovations. So therefore, if we look at that, why we are not going to have only STI mode of innovation, which typically relies on codified knowledge, which we call as know what and know why knowledge. So it is conducted largely by the R&D departments, as we have already talked about and emphasized. We are re-emphasizing here because we want to understand what are the pitfalls or drawbacks of the science and technology innovation, which we usually call as top-down approach, because the targets of science and technology innovation mode is taking from the top leadership of the country, what are our targets, and then you'll find that it comes down very heavily, but you'll find that the local requirements sometimes are being overlooked, and these innovation mismatches and then front disasters are usually occurring. So this is usually come from the R&D departments, so in cooperation with the research institutions or other firms, and based on its codifiability, it tends to have a rather global reach. So you'll find that R&D and the new innovations emerging from R&D done anywhere is going to be because these are codified, and these are very well known, while very refined kind of processes are being used to define these kind of new or invented new kind of innovations. However, you'll find learning in science and technology innovation primarily means searching for new knowledge, such as scientific principles, and recombining knowledge to achieve substantial innovative progress. In this mode, that is STI mode, formal R&D activity is the main driver of innovation, resulting in new products or processes, and it is effectively measured empirically by establishing indicators such as patents, R&D, personnel, and expenditures. We have also talked about that these are indicators, data for these indicators is easily available. That's why, largely for analysis purposes, people are using, or these scholars are using, these kind of indicators to understand how system is functioning. So measuring such activities served as a foundation for researchers to understand innovation in general, and it is used to advise policymakers and how and where to implement government support innovation. So that these indicators and the analysis of these indicators allow experts to, suggest policy advice to the government for how innovation support, especially to the private agents of or the private organizations, to get incentives and all that. However, these measures fall short in capturing the innovation process in the firms that do not rely on such activities. Firm does mean firms, business organizations, which provide the services and all that. So that does mean we have to look into that how innovation processes other than R&D lab which is taking place. So DUI mode is going to emphasize largely non-R&D kind of activities which generates new kind of innovation. So due to its informal nature, because largely the R&D is a formal kind of system in the organization, but there are large number of social informal kind of transactions which are taking place across and within organizations, and that allow us to invent as well as generate new kind of processes. So indeed, DUI is defined as a byproduct of other activities, and it often results in tacit knowledge with a focus on know-how and know-who, which tends to have a rather local reach in terms of its connections to customers, suppliers, and competitors. So therefore, you'll find that some individuals working in an organization are being called as institutions themselves because they possess a lot of tacit knowledge. When they move out from the organization, that knowledge is also gone. So therefore, you'll find that the workers are moving from one kind of organization to another. They take along with them the tacit knowledge, which is very difficult to be important. For example, that a housewife or homemaker person is cooking food at home, the kind of taste they develop when the food is being cooked. But you will find that others, if recipe even is transferred to somebody else, but same kind of tasty food is difficult to be generated. This is the difference between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law and the fight in the households happening, because you will find that the food tastes different even if same recipe is being applied for a new person. So that does mean you'll find that tacit knowledge is very important. That is having a spillover effects, and therefore you'll find that there are three components of this. DUI constitutes processes of learning through doing. So that means learning cannot happen instantly. When you are doing things, you keep on learning and mastering the art. This is, you'll find that in economic literature, Adam Smith has defined very well, and he has argued that you'll find the division of labor and repeatedly doing an activity over a period of time going to make you much efficient person. So that means learning from working experience is very important, and this has been talked about by Arrow as well as Thompson more recently. So increasing the skill in production and exchanging knowledge within the firm is very important, but it comes through experiential kind of nature of doing an activity. So it involves using, meaning feedback from users, and you'll find their involvement in improving or co-creating products and services. So therefore you'll find that it is not that the producer is important, it is also very important that the user is also very important, and users feedback also try to improve the kind of features or the design of the products which you are going to find it improving over a period of time. Finally, it comprises interacting, that is learning through interaction with other firms, that means other organizations or external actors such as suppliers or public institutions. So therefore you'll find the university industrial relations in public institutions is very, very important, where you'll find the knowledge transmission and new process of production, new process of innovation that is going to happen. So this kind of interacting learning has been emphasized originally in the approach developed by Professor Londwall, and more specifically the indicators are being developed by Jensen et al. In the year 2007 was the one of the publication where you will be able to find a lot of emphasis has been given that how innovative processes are taking place through interactive learning. And Lundwall's theoretical proposition was translated empirically by Jensen and others. So these three broad learning processes result in innovation that are usually of incremental in nature, such as cost reductions or quality improvements, but they can also generate new products or services which are often highly customer specific. So it is conceptually and empirically underdeveloped for DUI mode activities. In general, we lack comprehensive measurement approach for the DUI mode activities, and existing research suffers from a mismatch between the theoretical concept of DUI activities and empirical measurement. So there are a large number of scholars nowadays started engaging in such kind of DUI, developing DUI approach, and therefore you'll find that prominently, as we have already talked about, Lundwall, the originator, and then followed by several people participating in GlobalX, for example, that the KJ Joseph and Mamu Muchi have been involved in such kind of measures, and large number of other scholars have been implementing this particular approach. So learning by doing describes a process of repeated exercise of an activity, doing something which increases the efficiency of that task. Moreover, failing and learning from mistakes are also important in this process. I think that most important in the innovation, because innovations are relatively risky, but you'll find that failures are not expected from the R&D kind of labs, but you'll find that failures are very important, and therefore learning turns out to be very important, because when you fail, you did commit mistakes, and the mistakes are incorporated in the future learning processes and reenacting the processes of innovation that we have been looking into. So furthermore, we can apply this idea to the level of teams and other organization forms such as departments or organizations and firms. Learning by doing can be thought of as a joint learning activities among different actors within a firm. So they exchange knowledge, experiences, eventually leading to new knowledge and improvements of products and processes. Such joint or collective learning by doing comprises several activities. So therefore you'll find that this is very important, and you'll find learning by doing turns out to be a very important process, and informal transactions are very, very important here. So learning by using describes a process in which customers or users of a product or service report back their experience of using the product. Rosenberg has emphasized that and provided several examples where users reported their experiences and influenced the future design and properties of the products. So that does mean the design of the products are improved from the feedback of the users. So this feedback from users outside of a firm contributes to knowledge accumulation and innovation opportunities for the firm. However, user can also articulate a specific demand for a product variation or a new product. So that means their needs are going to be incorporated in terms of developing the products. So therefore, the communication between users and producers, especially over a longer period of time, is important to understand the users' needs to improve and redesign the products or services offered by the producers. Indeed, it can even lead to co-creation with users. So learning by interacting describes the process by which the firm interacts with other firms or actors outside the firm, providing learning and innovation opportunities from spillovers, the interaction of firms with a heterogeneous set of knowledge, usually firms that are not competing in the same market, is a major source of learning and innovation. Other actors such as suppliers, distributors, and competitors provide additional learning opportunities, especially interaction in an informal way, or for example, via meetings with former colleagues or at trade fairs can serve as a source of new knowledge. As in the academics, we learn from interacting while participating in the conference and the informal kind of discussions which usually takes place on the sidelines of the conferences and lunches, dinners, and various meetings when we are discussing things with each other. So the knowledge that is generated or received contributes to knowledge accumulation and serves as an input in the innovation process. These are some of the important indicators which has been developed. You will find that the categories are given, and then you'll find indicators are there and kind of measurement. So that means the three things which we have learned: learning by doing, learning by interacting, learning by using. You will find that this is allowing us to move towards the kind of various categories, empirical indicators, and the kind of measurement which is very visible. And you will find that when you employ technology, new technology introduction takes place, current technology improvements takes place, and then you'll find that this is a fundamentally we can call as knowledge flow. Similarly, you can read this table which is going to provide various ways through which you will find that in a fine variety ways the indicators, the categories are developed, and then you'll find that each category have several indicators, and then you'll find that the kind of measurement, how you measure those variables, are very important. So these are the kind of indicators which we have of several kind, and then you'll find that it ends up stating that we have each variable as indicator in the DUI mode has been defined comprehensively, but still I believe these kind of indicators are not still sufficient, because as our understanding about DUI measures keep on increasing, you'll find that more and more the list of them is being generated while adding more and more those kind of variables for empirical estimation, as well as which are close to the theoretical proposals of the national systems of innovation. So we have now to look into, when we have to ultimately define the innovation system, we have to limit the boundaries of the innovation system. How you define the innovation system is very, very important, because we have three ways to identify boundaries of the national innovation system. One is called spatially or geographical boundaries, and second is sectoral, and third is the activities. So these three ways through which we will be able to kind of understand and define the types of the innovation system which has been developed as a whole. So most important and easier task is to spatially define boundaries of the systems of innovation called regional or national, regional and national. So the criteria to be used to identify a region is very important. The first is the degree of coherence or inward orientation is high with regard to innovation processes. That means that you are looking into two words, that is coherence or inward interaction or orientation, that is coordinating, cooperating and defining the unique kind of boundaries of that particular region, and beyond that boundaries you will not be able to see that those things are happening. I can give you a very simple example of a region that we have a lot of regions, both in terms of industries as well as in terms of the kind of agriculture sector of the economy. For example, we have a particular region called the Green Revolution region, where you will find that there is a degree of coherence of innovation, and there is an inward orientation because of specificity of the kind of processes of innovation which cannot be found out in outside this region. So therefore you'll find that this is one. Second is, you will see that we have some kind of clusters. For example, we have various cities like Panipat, we have the city like Ludhiana, we have cities like Bangalore, where services are very, very important. So you'll find that that is the kind of regional and Bombay Thana belt where the manufacturing of textile has been traditionally from the British period to the modern period has been taking place. So this is how you will be able to define. And the second very important characteristic is sufficient level of localization in terms of learning as well as spillover effects among the organization. That means the agglomeration, deagglomeration economies of scale, which usually we are reading in the regional economics, those are very important. That means that you are able to catch up those kind of spillovers effects from the learning processes, especially when you'll find that transfer of the tacit knowledge among individuals and organizations are taking place, and you will find largely it is a localized mobility of skilled workers. You will not be able to carry such kind of workers available somewhere else. So therefore, that kind of labor or workers carry a specialized tacit knowledge and generates a local kind of labor market. This is also, you can find in Maharashtra belt where you'll find grapes are being grown. You'll find that such kind of labor which have a knowledge is available over there only, not somewhere else. So innovation related collaboration, finally the innovation related collaboration among organization is very important because you have a localized network and learning. So this is a very comprehensively region can be defined with are these kind of 4 or 5 elements which we have talked about, and that uniquely defined a region. And then you'll find that from this region we will be able to move towards very easily to understand the national innovation system, because national innovation system is largely a political entity. Nation is a political entity. The boundary of the nation is largely defined, but all the specificities of the regions should be expectedly available, and especially the degree of coherence and inward orientation. If is strong in a nation, you will have a unique national innovation system. If it is weak, then you'll find that it is difficult to be called even a nation as a national innovation system. So therefore you'll find that nation is being constituted by the national boundaries, and it is a political entity at large. Most important type of innovation, that is sectoral innovation. A sectoral innovation system has been largely concentrated on firms, but I usually talk about agriculture innovation system, services innovation system. These are also part of the sectoral innovation system, because in the industrial innovation system you have product specificities, and therefore you'll find that you can define very easily this kind of innovation sectoral innovation system, which we called industrial innovation system, because it defined as a system or group of firms active in developing and making a sector's products and in generating and utilizing a sector's technology. That is very important, and specific or product areas are used to define the boundaries of sectoral innovation system. For example, within the agriculture system also, you'll find that some of the areas where basmati rice, which is only available in particular area where specific fragrance can be developed. Similarly, you have a grape wine developed in France, is called champagne, that has specificities, and you will find that it is a sectoral innovation system where you will find that a unique kind of innovation involves various kind of firms or economic actors of production that are interacting and complementing with each other and generating a kind of new products in that particular specific area. So specific or product areas are used to define the boundaries of the sectoral innovation system. So it is partly a theoretical, but it is usually a social construct. So you will find that these are the various ways through which we can define innovation system. But fundamental factor is that the diffusion of innovation system approach as well as public policy is very, very important, because the one should be able to understand how innovation system is engrossing the whole world, more specifically because diffusion of ideas of national system of innovation approach is relatively very rapid, or has been very, very rapid, because of not only the kind of scholars engaged prior to the establishment of the Global X in the year 2004, which has actually a watershed in the history of the development and popularization of this approach, because Global X involved large number of scholars, and earlier it was an annual conference. Now it is after 2 years. So therefore you'll find that this conference involves large number of scholars from all around the world, and more specifically encouraged by the Global X that the southern scholars should participate, because the approach of innovation used by Global X is relatively close to DUI measures and determinants of innovation system, and therefore you'll find that the global south is more able to contribute, and therefore has been contributing over a period of time. But the Global X as an organization has played a fundamental role in popularize this very important role in and systematic role in involving scholars, developing the innovation studies or innovation system studies programs in various organizations such as universities, public institutions as well. So therefore you'll find that the Global X has spread its wings, especially through various ways, especially developing a localized chapters. One is the continent-wise kind of chapters, Africa Lex, Latin America Lex, then you find Asia Lex, European Lex, then you will find that country Lex like China Lex as well as India Lex, because you will find that these are almost continent sized countries in terms of both population diversity as well as spread. So therefore you'll find that another very important ways through which Global X spread this message is organizing every year Global X Academy, and where you'll find that young scholars are being trained, and you will find the skills are being developed for increasing the involvement of the scholars in the innovation studies approach, and this increases over a period of time the academic influence. So you'll find that broad application of innovation system approach is already happening in the policy makings, because the international organizations such as OECD, European Union, UNCTAD, UNITO, all have been using this approach to prescribing policies globally, as well as to individual countries, as well as to themselves in the organizations, to understand the innovation processes which are taking place while following the national systems of innovation approach. Especially there are noteworthy features that in Sweden a public policy agency has been named after this approach called Sweden Agency for Innovation System. So in India recently you'll find that we have published a book where you'll find there is one chapter talked about integrated innovation system has been developed in India because of the COVID crisis and dealing with the COVID crisis. So therefore you'll find that producing new knowledge is fundamentally nowadays considered by the national governments after looking into the national innovation approach, that this is not only developed through only the science, technology, innovation approach, but you have to go towards holistic as well as interdisciplinary perspective, because this is a multifaceted problem and large number of minds which comes from various perspectives, because we have challenges, global challenges, and those challenges are, for example, inequality as well as inequality as well as environmental is the fundamental kind of problem. So therefore, for solving those problems, we have to have a holistic and interdisciplinary perspective. But what we have to do is the interdependence and non-linearity is also very important kind of thing that needs to be generating the innovation system policy perspective. That's very important. So with these words, I would like to thank for giving me an opportunity to develop these kind of two important lessons on understanding the national innovation approach from the ab initio perspective. Thank you.